So I've been in, let's call it automotive media now for 30 years. Basically, I got my start writing about cars. Now at Haggerty, we have Haggerty Media. We have a YouTube channel, we have social, we have a magazine, we have a website. So it's all mediums. But, a question we get a lot in this business is how do you get started? So before YouTube, when anybody could just, put on a camera and get going. 30 years ago, there was basically the only way was through a car magazine. And there was 4 of them. I can't remember when I got this idea. I always grew up reading Car and Driver, loved it. It was like my Bible. I can recite what was on the cover in the December 1988 issue, that kind of obsession. Always loved cars, and I was good in math, and in high school, loved cars, and I had a side business keeping my neighbors' snowblowers and lawnmowers running. So I wanted to work in the car business for sure, and so I went to engineering school. I hated it, absolutely hated it. We never picked up a wrench. Never built anything. We just sat in classrooms. It was unbelievably boring. I still to this day, they took all the fun out of engineering. So at some point, it was my junior year, I just got this idea, why wouldn't I try and get a job at Car and Driver? So this would have been September of my junior year. I start writing them letters. Never returned. Hey, I'd love to have a summer job there. I'd love to do whatever I could. And a couple months go by, I think I'd sent 3 letters, nothing. So I just said, just got in the car. I was going to Lehigh University at the time in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Drove the 9 hours to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Had my one ill-fitting blue blazer, put it on with a tie, and just knocked on the door. And opened up, and they said, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I'm the guy that sent all those letters." And I remember the woman, she's like, "We get a lot of letters." I'm like, "Okay, well, I want a job here." This woman took pity on me. Her name was Marianne Pickney. She's like, "Okay." And she grabbed this guy who sort of runs what they call interns. They called them road warriors at the time. And basically what you do is they just got the cars ready for whatever they wanted, photography, testing. And I met him and said, "I'd really like to come back here for work for the summer as an intern." He said, "Look," he said, "you see this folder on the desk? And there's a manila folder. It's about this thick." He's like, "This is the number of resumes I've gotten so far this year." He's like, "We already got 2 people." He's like, "So, I don't know. I guess just keep in touch." So, I go back, and I'm not thinking this is a dead deal. I'm just thinking, well, how do I got to make sure I'm at the top of that list? So I would figure out things to write or ideas for them, and I'd go to this was early days of word processing, type up a letter, print on the dot matrix printer, mail it with a stamp. I didn't hear anything, so I went back out there in March the following year and said, "Any news, any this?" And they were sort of nice, but it wasn't very promising. And then I was still holding out hope. It was 3 days before my last final. I just called, and the woman, Marianne, patched me through to Andre. He said, "Oh, you know what? Your timing's perfect. This guy Jim just said he can't work for the summer. Can you be out here in 5 days?" I was like, "I am there." So I go out there and I spend the summer at Car and Driver, and it was pretty fantastic. And I got to know everybody and I got to do it. And then I went back for my senior year and I graduated. And before I graduated, I was looking for jobs. I called the magazine and said, "Hey, I'd love to come back. What do you have?" And they said, "Well, there's only maybe 5 full-time positions and they're all full." And I had student loans that I had to repay, so I couldn't go back. And I was like, "Oh, well." So I got an engineering job in Baltimore, and this company made these things called precipitators. And what they do is they clean coal ash out of exhaust before it goes out the smokestack. So I get this job, and it paid $32,000 a year, which in 1992 was so much money. It was great. But part of that job was I had to climb these smokestacks, and I'm terrified of heights. And I remember the following summer, I actually got assigned to a garbage incinerator in Baltimore in July. And you cannot imagine the stench. So I remember at some point, I got to climb this smokestack. I'm sweating head to toe. I'm certain my hands are going to slip off the ladder and I'm going to fall and die. And I get up to this catwalk. I'm by myself. I'm checking the instrumentation that checks the opacity of the exhaust gas. And I just remember I'm looking down through my steel toe boots on this clear grate at the ground, shaking. The stench of this garbage and the burning is filling my nostrils. And I remember thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then like coincidentally, like a week later, I found out this thing called deferment. Deferment is this wonderful thing. And I remember calling the student loan office and saying, so what is this deferment thing? And I said, oh, well, if sometimes something comes up, you need to pause paying your loans off. I said, how long can you do that for? They said, you can do it for a year. It's like, wow, here's my chance. Call Car and Driver up again and said, hey, maybe I could be an intern. And the guy there is Chubachetta. He was an MIT engineer. He really valued engineering. And he says, man, all I got's $5 an hour. I said, I'll take it. Not even healthcare. So I quit my job, November 1995, drove out to Ann Arbor. A friend of mine from college knew somebody that had an apartment. I could sleep on the floor, didn't even have a bed. And, looking back, it was so reckless because I'd never written a word. And here I am, I'm going to try and chase a job writing about cars. My parents are crying. We sacrificed to put you through college and you're going to throw it all away. And they had a point. Like, what was I going to say after this year is up and I don't have a job? I get out there, and Car and Driver is unique in that they actually go to a test track and they use instrumentation to test the performance of cars, 0 to 60, top speed, things like that. So luckily I was handy enough I could keep that stuff working. And I think I see it somewhere, but a lot of times when people are in those low jobs, they only have enough for you to do that's about half your time. And I figured, well, the best thing I can do is to make myself invaluable to everybody. So what do? The kitchen needs cleaning? I clean the kitchen. You got to take out the recyclables? Take out the recyclables. I organized this, so that's what I was doing. In addition to washing cars, putting gas in them, checking the oil, and then I'd shuttle stuff around, any menial task I could do. That's what I was there to do. I didn't have a social life. I was sleeping on the floor. I had bought a Miata, foolishly, the first car out of college. I was paying it off with a credit card. And now that year, it's like next summer, that year is coming to an end and there's still no openings. You can imagine those are pretty coveted jobs, so people don't leave them. And I was just like, oh man, now what am I going to do? I had no plan B, like just nothing. And just like miraculously, a guy named Kevin Smith, who was based in LA, decided to take a job with an advertising agency. So that opened up his slot. Somebody in Ann Arbor wanted to go to California, so got transferred, and there was my opening. And I can remember to this day, I got called into Chubba's office. I can clearly remember him walking behind his desk, and as he's sitting, he goes, well, I think your ship's come in. There it was, and that's how it all started. It was more than a staff writer. It was called a technical editor. And a technical editor, it was such an awesome job because, I still can't believe how lucky it worked out, because a technical editor actually goes to the track and tests the cars. And what that meant was 2 days a week, I was at the Chrysler Proving Grounds doing quarter-mile runs, doing skid pad tests, doing top speed tests, all kinds of stuff. And it was stressful because you only had the car for a short amount of time. This gear we used that tied into early IBM computers was finicky. And so you had to come back with the data, but you had to do that, and then you had to do it. So it was not like all peaches and cream, and there was a lot of like boring cars that you're going up and down this 2-mile straightaway, but it was freaking awesome. And then I started racing go-karts on my own. I was doing a lot of that. So then that evolved into, I was the guy getting the lap times. And then at some point I started this thing called Lightning Lap at VIR to try and establish the American version of the Nürburgring. And so it was just an incredible job, super fun.
This month of VINwiki content is brought to you by Premier Financial Services, and they are the perfect partner in your journey to own your dream car because their Simple Lease is the most powerful tool in the world of exotic car financing. You'll get all the benefits of a leasing structure like lower payments and better tax treatment, along with everything we love about a normal exotic car loan where you can trade in and out at any time, always know where you stand thanks to their amortization table, and accumulate equity for whenever you're finished and ready for the next car. And Premier is great because they're wholly owned and backed by First Financial Bank, which means they have more buying power than any other exotic car bank or collector car bank in the United States, and their customer service is unmatched. Also, rates are lower than they have been in a very, very long time, so it's never been a better time to reach out to Premier, talk to their representatives, learn what you can pre-qualify for, and let them help you own the car of your dreams with Premier Financial Services.